Okay, Geometry AB, we're going to do a short and sweet section of notes today on Chapter 10, Section 7, Areas of Circles and Sectors. So what we're beginning with right here, everybody, is the formula here for area of a circle, which is pi times the radius of that circle squared. So I'm hoping this is a formula you guys have seen before. The important thing to take from it right here is that there's really only one dimension that we need to know about a circle, and that is its radius. And if we take pi, which of course is that irrational number, that's the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, and multiply that by the square of the radius, that gives us the formula for the area of that circle. All right, so we're just going to use that formula once real quick here in action. We've got a circle right here with a radius equal to 7 inches. So we're going to go with our normal 3-step process. Step number 1, we're going to write out our formula here. So trying to find the area of a circle, that formula is going to be pi times your radius squared. Step 2, we fill in what we know. So the area of our circle is going to be pi, which remember is a constant, not a variable, and our radius here is going to be 7, and just this once I'm going to include units in there as well, and we square that. And then step 3, we go ahead and evaluate what we can here. So area of a circle is equal to, the 7 squared right here is going to give us a 49. We multiply the 49 times the pi. And again, in middle school, you may have been asked to come up with this as a decimal, but at this point, we're generally more interested in keeping the answer exact. So the 7 squared gets us 49. We multiply that by the pi, and we simply write our answer as 49 pi. Now when we talk about units for just a second here, when we take a look right here, we have inches for our units, and those inches are getting squared as well. So inches squared times itself is going to get us square inches there, and that is our final answer to this problem. Nice and simple. Area of that circle is 49 pi square inches. All right, let's take a look at what's going on now. Now, the second thing we have to talk about within this section right here, other than just the area of a circle itself, is the area of what's called a sector. And a quick way to think about a sector would simply be a slice of pizza or a piece of pie. So a sector is formed here by drawing not just one radii, but another radius right there next to it. And when we do that, we then end up with this shaded region right over here, and that is what's called a sector. Now, what we can see here is that a sector is pretty clearly part of the circle itself, and so the area of that sector is based upon the area of the entire circle. So when we write the formula here for area of a sector, all right, we're going to leave a little space, but eventually we're going to use the formula for the area of the entire circle, which is pi times radius squared, which we just got done talking about. So that by itself right there gives us the formula for the area of the whole thing. But we don't want the entire thing. We only want a portion of that circle, or if you will, a fraction of that circle. So we're going to go ahead and multiply this area of a circle by a fraction. And on the bottom of that fraction, the denominator always represents the whole. Well, the entire circle has a measure of 360 degrees. But the part that we want is going to depend on how big of a slice of pizza we are dealing with right here. So once again, we tend to use very often in math this Greek letter called theta here to represent an unknown angle. So if that arc measure was theta degrees right there, then we would put theta up in the numerator there, and our formula for the area of that sector would be theta over 360 multiplied by pi r squared. It's really very similar to what we did a couple weeks ago before spring break when we were talking about arc length. We did theta over 360 times, in that case, 2 pi r, which was the circumference of the entire circle. But here, since we're talking about area, we use pi r squared, which is the area of the entire circle, and then multiply that by the fraction of theta over 360, and that'll get us the area of just an individual sector. Okay, so that's a formula we need to have down. So let's take a look at this problem right here, and we're going to try to come up with the area of that yellow shaded region there on the side right there. So what do we have here? Again, 3 steps, everybody. So step 1, let's write down our formula for area of a sector, and that was going to be theta over 360 multiplied by the area formula for the entire circle, which is pi r squared. Step 2, let's fill in what we know. area is equal to, now theta is the measure of this arc right out here on the outside, but what we learned back in the beginning of chapter 10 is that the degree measure of that arc is exactly the same as the degree measure of the central angle that defines it. So in both of these cases here, 120 degrees is the angle measure that we're interested in. So we're going to do a 120 over 360, that's a really bad 3, sorry, multiplied by pi times a radius here of 9, and that 9 is going to get squared. And then step 3, we're going to go ahead and evaluate what we have right here. So area is equal to, and at this point, if I were you guys, I'd probably go to my calculator and I'd probably just type in the following here. I would do a 120, I would do a divided by 360, and then multiply that by a 9 squared. I would just leave the pi out altogether. Your newer calculators, if you put the pi in, it'll still give you the answer in terms of pi, but in the old ones that I got used to using, we just left the pi out altogether. Anyway, 120 over 360 ends up being 1/3. 9 squared is 81, and 1/3 of 81 is going to get us a 27 pi for our answer. Now again, in terms of units, we were dealing with centimeters here, so this 9 for our radius was actually 9 centimeters, and centimeters squared is going to get us square centimeters for our final answer. And that is the area just of this yellow shaded region right over here. Okay, so that's a real quick wrap here on our notes for 10-7. I'll assign a homework assignment on that today, and hopefully you guys can have some luck working on that. All right, everybody.